Once upon a time, in a certain kingdom, there was a young man who lived a hard life. Every day he left home to find work, earn some money for food, then return to cook, eat, and rest. His life was repetitive, monotonous, and difficult. One day, after wandering all day without finding any work, he returned home discouraged. On the way, he heard a voice behind him. "Is there anyone here who can do some labor?" He turned and saw an old man standing beside 3 large sacks. He replied, "I can do it." The old man said, "I need to go to a nearby village, but it's quite far. I can carry 2 sacks, but one is too heavy. If you help me carry it, I will pay you 3 gold coins." The young man agreed. When he lifted the sack, he found it very heavy and asked, "Why is it so heavy?" The old man whispered, "Because inside are copper coins." Still, the young man was willing to carry it without complaint, showing diligence and honesty. As they continued, they reached a river. The young man stepped into the water to wade across, but the old man stayed on the shore, motionless. He said, "I'm too old to carry 2 sacks across the river. If I try, I might drown. Can you carry 1 more sack for me? Don't worry, I'll pay you another 3 gold coins." The young man agreed. As he prepared to lift the sack, the old man hesitated and said, "But you must promise not to run away with it. Inside are silver coins." The young man was surprised. "Why would you think that? I'm not a thief. I just want to work honestly to earn my living." Without hesitation, he carried the second sack and crossed the river with the old man. Though he knew the sack contained silver, he was not tempted. He kept his honesty and did his duty. The old man watched the young man carefully, but the young man remained steadfast, not letting greed enter his heart. After crossing the river, they continued until they reached a high hill. The young man started climbing, but the old man remained at the foot of the hill. Seeing this, the young man called, "Sir, why don't you continue?" The old man sighed, "I'm old and weak. It's hard to climb with such heavy sacks. Can you carry the last sack for me?" The young man said, "All right, give it here." But the old man hesitated again. "Inside this sack is gold. If you run away, I won't be able to catch you." The young man raised his voice slightly. "I told you, I'm not greedy. I used to be a bookkeeper for a loan shark. He forced me to cheat in the books, but I refused and quit. I'd rather be poor than dishonest." Though still doubtful, the old man finally agreed and let the young man carry the gold sack. He said, "You go ahead, I will follow." The young man continued, carrying all 3 sacks, proud of his honesty, but temptation had begun to creep into his mind. Climbing the hill, a sudden thought crossed the young man's mind. "Now I'm carrying all 3 sacks. If I run, that old man won't catch me. With this money, I'll become rich." Greedy thoughts followed. "I'm young with my whole life ahead. With money, I'll live comfortably, marry a beautiful wife, and earn respect." The temptation grew, taking over his mind. Finally, he decided to run quickly, carrying all 3 sacks. Breathing heavily, he didn't look back, excited about a wealthy future. Arriving home, he hurriedly opened the sacks. But to his shock, there was no gold, silver, or copper, only small stones. Stunned, he found a note in the last sack. It read, "I am the king of this kingdom. I have no heir and am seeking an honest person to inherit the throne. If you hadn't run away, today you would have been the prince." Reading the letter, the young man was speechless. Regret flooded his heart. He had lived honestly, never greedy or deceitful. Yet in a moment of weakness, he lost his chance to change his life, to become heir to the throne. If only he had cast aside greed and held firm to his honesty, he would now be a prince. This story is a profound reminder. The thoughts in our minds can determine our destiny. The young man was good-natured, but a chain of negative thoughts, 1 minute of allowing greed to overpower reason, made him lose everything. Thoughts lead to words. Words lead to actions. Repeated actions become habits. And habits shape destiny. Buddha once taught, "The greatest enemy is not outside, but the uncontrolled thoughts within." Therefore, what matters is not what happens outside, but how we respond from within. Like selecting seeds before planting, we must choose our thoughts before letting them take root. Practice observing and transforming your thoughts, because mastering your mind means mastering your life. A pure mind brings peace. A clouded mind leads to suffering.